last day of the panels for TOWF Fest 2021. I'd like to thank you guys for being available to come and lend your expertise to us. Why don't I read some bios? First up, Suzanne Lacey. Suzanne is Bell Fund's Deputy Director, English Canada CRTC Certified Independent Production Fund, which provides approximately $15 million annually to over 100 independent production companies to support the development and production of high-quality Canadian content. Previously, Suzanne was Director of multi-platform content and broadcast scheduling for TVO. She was responsible for TVO's first drama series, Hard Rock Medical, distinct features, filmed in Sudbury and North Bay, and its first factual series, The Water Brothers, winner of the prestigious BBC Earth Panda Award. Before that, she production managed various programs, including the multi-Gemini Award-winning documentary Before Their Time. This is on Discovery US and TVO. She's a graduate of Queen's University Film Studies with a certificate in digital media from OCAD. So you can see Suzanne knows her stuff. Next is Kate. Kate Fenton is an actress, writer, director, producer, and teacher. Great fit for the web series space. In 2007, Kate co-founded the award-winning company, The Quickening Theatre. She produced 7 original productions and was supported by the Ontario and Toronto Arts Councils. In 2013, Kate joined The Journey, a large-scale musical production about the living history of the revitalization of Regent Park as co-writer and director. The show has raised over $4 million to date. The funds subsidize the arts programming at Daniel Spectrum, an artistic hub in the heart of Regent Park. Kate's short film, Rainbow Baby, recently won the 2020 Toronto Actra Women's Committee, TAWC Film Lab. Kate is also part of the Women in Television and Film this WIFT Connects program under the mentorship of Suzanne Alexander. Kate is the co-creator, co-writer, co-star of the original web series Band Ladies on Highball TV. You can check out by just going to her website, katejfenton.com. All right, I think that's enough for our introduction. I think this is the part where I hand it over to you. You guys want to tell us a little bit about the Bell Media Fund and I'm sorry, darn it, I did it again.
Bell Fund?
You know what? I'm just going to hand it over to you and just quietly put myself back here.
Thank you, Rodney.
I guess that's a good transition for you to launch into what the Bell Fund is and what the programs are that are available.
Yeah, absolutely. So welcome everyone, and thanks for having us. So as Rodney mentioned, the Bell Fund is one of several certified independent production funds, and we support the production of short-form digital series, both fiction and nonfiction, TV series, and slate development. We are located in Toronto and Montreal, but we are a fund for all of Canada. And we do encourage you, if you are an emerging creator and you haven't applied to, or just if you haven't applied to a Bell Fund program before, we encourage you to book a one-on-one session with us. In fact, it is mandatory now for our short-form digital series and our slate programs. Applications are super hard to do, and we want you to do the best you can. So we want you to book a one-on-one. Once you've read the guidelines, the application components, have a good sense of what your questions are so you make the best use of your time, and then you're going to email info@bellfund.ca and book a one-on-one session. And we encourage you to do it because, we are, although as Rodney says, there is a substantial amount of money to contribute to great content each year. We are a small organization. There are 6 employees in total across the country, 4 located in Toronto handling the English language application. So if you do that, you'll be talking with me or with my colleague Rachel for English language production. So So don't hesitate, just reach out and talk to us. We will actually talk with you.
Yes, you're incredibly helpful and informative, I will say.
Yeah, Kate's been through it, absolutely. And yeah, and you know, again, there's as I say, it is very competitive. Our programs are always oversubscribed as well. So we want to make sure that you take the time to prepare well. Um, you know, we do recommend about 3 months. So if you're thinking about the fall, and I'll mention our deadlines shortly. You do want to take about 3 months. So you'd want to start now to prepare your applications because they are so much work and they require a lot of expertise across a lot of areas, right? So you have, of course, your creative, and that's only a part of the puzzle. You also have to assemble your, you know, at least your key team, your budget, your financing. Depending on the program, it might be market interest or it might be a channel, a specific digital channel, for instance, that you're bringing to the application. And of course, you have to know your audience. You have to have a good sense of who you're targeting. So because there's so many areas to cover, we absolutely encourage you to partner up, especially if you're an emerging creator. And we love to see our emerging creators, meaning, you know, you are a pro, you've done some stuff, but you haven't racked up a whole lot of credits yet. But you could still pull together a strong application. And a big part of that is assembling a strong team as well and having commitments from them. Again, there's so many areas to cover. So if you're strong with your content, but maybe not so strong when it comes to budgeting and finance plans, then partner up with somebody who does that. And believe it or not, there are people who love financing and budgeting. So partner up with them and bring a strong application. So in terms of our programs, yeah, I'll focus on the short form digital series program, which Kate is familiar with. I'll also touch on our Slate Development program. And as I mentioned, we do have some deadlines coming up in the fall. So first up will be our short form digital series program deadline on September 27, and then Slate Development deadline November 29. So it feels like a long way away, but again, you need that time to prepare. So it'll be here before we know it. Should I jump in, Kate, to talking more about our short form digital series program?
Yeah, I think that's a great place to begin. I would imagine that most people who have joined us today are creating content in the web series universe, so we're
Yeah,
relatively familiar with what short form means. But what I guess because the slate to me is the development side of things, and with the
right.
short form, it's production. So there's a
Yeah,
different expectation of where the project needs to be when you're at the point of application. So maybe
yeah, yeah.
talking a little bit about the eligibility requirements and what content you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, for the short form digital series, you know, also known as web series, of course, program. So we're funding original, what we call linear video, French or English language, to a maximum episode length of 20 minutes and a minimum number of episodes, six episodes minimally in your series. And, you know, of course, the guidelines at belfund.ca is your resource to see all of the eligibility requirements. Also, I encourage you to look at the document checklist to see all the documents you have to prepare and upload with your application. As well, a great place to look is the assessment criteria. We always publish the assessment criteria for each of our programs. They're unique for each program, and they will be your guide as to how the jury will be, you know, scoring your application. So check out all of that stuff, but I'll touch on a few of them, a few of the key areas right now. So overall, in terms of the amount of funding contribution, and our funding contribution for short form digital series is a non-repayable contribution. So you do not have to pay it back. And it is, you can request up to 75% of your series production cost to a maximum of $150,000. So, and in terms of eligible costs, it's your standard video production series costs, and no big surprises there. So as you can see, that means you're going to come up with 25% of the financing yourself, and we'll touch on that again in a second. I just wanted to mention as well, in addition to requesting the $150,000 for your production, if your application is recommended by the jury and approved by our board of directors, you would then be able to request up to $50,000 additionally for your audience development, to implement an audience development plan. Because of course with digital series, it's different from traditional television in that you don't always have a broadcaster to oversee you and oversee the marketing plan. Often that falls on the producer or the production team to develop a plan to attract their audience and keep their audience and engage them. So that $50,000 is for that, for those activities. But again, you don't ask for that application. You ask only if you're
that's what I was
approved.
going to ask you. That's a new part of the
That is
application.
new. It's new, and the nice thing about it is, you know, as these plans get more sophisticated and we learn more about, attracting an audience digitally, it's a lot of work to put together a plan. And so in this way, what we're asking for is a 2-page preliminary plan.
Okay.
You show that basically you know who your audience is, you have a good sense of how to reach them. By this point, you know what digital channel you're going to be streaming on. So you put all those pieces together in about 2 pages, you're going to do your preliminary audience plan. You only have to develop it further into a comprehensive plan if your project is approved. So at that point, you might want to put money into, hiring a consultant or just, more expertise to build a really robust plan. But you don't have to do that all up front prior to getting production approval. So
Right.
we hope that that's a big help to all the creators. And so what else on financial? So I
Maybe
mentioned,
talk a little bit about, like, I think I've had some producing friends contact me to sort of ask what the difference is when you're talking about the 75%, the 10%
yeah,
third party, and the mandatory trailers. So like just breaking that down a little bit more, maybe.
yeah, for sure. So yes, you may ask up to 75% of the production cost to a max of 150,000. The other 25% is comprised of minimally 10% from a third party. So 10% from somebody that isn't Bell Fund and isn't you, the producer. So it could come from a variety of sources. Ideally, it's an industry source like another fund. There are lots of funds now that support digital series. Check them all out individually because everybody has different rules. Some are for second season only, some are for drama only, etc. But funds like CMF has their web series fund, IPF, if you're in Ontario Creates. If you're in other provinces, like Manitoba Film and Music or Creative BC, you can check out their programs. And in addition to the provincial agencies and the funds, again, funds like TELUS Fund or Shaw Rocket Fund, etc., might be other sources. And sometimes there are tax credits, and we don't have to get too much into that. Tax credits, if you're not familiar with them, they're a little more complicated than we need to get into maybe today. But just sometimes you can be eligible to get some of your labor costs back from a federal tax credit or a provincial tax credit, but you have to be eligible. Sometimes that means you're a broadcast or you have a theatrical release. So you have to be eligible. And then there's this further thing, which is the fact that Bell Fund is considered assistance and it will grind your tax credits. It'll just reduce them a little bit. So tax credits are a whole other conversation, but they are worth, they can count as third party. Yeah, okay. They can count as part of your 10% third party. You don't have to use them. So if you can find the financing elsewhere and you're eligible for a tax credit, and you wait for that tax credit to come, it can take a while. But it's possible that you could, keep that for yourself as income for your project or your company. So again, the 10% can come from a variety of sources, but it is great if it's an industry source. It kind of, again, bolsters the the project, the viability of it in terms of being successful in the industry. So that's the 10%. And then the other 15, because you have your 75 from Bell Fund, your 10 from a third party. And if you still don't have, if you just have 10% from the third party and you still need 15, that can come from really yourself as the producer. It could be a deferral. There could be in-kind contributions. For instance, your post-production house maybe would supply in kind, or people might lower their rates, or there might be a sponsor involved. Not, we don't see that many sponsors, but it's possible. There could be some sponsorship dollars.
Can you do crowdfunding? Is that?
I was just going to say, you can. The only tricky thing with crowdfunding is you have to have raised the money already, and you have to have it at the time of application.
Right.
So you can't say, I plan to use this, or you can't say, here's a general pool of money I collected. It has to be specifically for this project, and you have to have it already in place. The only money that when you apply, basically all your financing needs to be in place, except for Bell Fund, of course. But if it's another funding body in Canada or a provincial agency, you may apply to us with that commitment still outstanding, as long as we get it. I think we say now, we've tightened it up, I think we say 60 days after Bell Fund notification, you have to have that confirmed. So if you're applying to like an Ontario Creates or a CMF or an IPF, you have to have a good sense of the expected date of notification for that fund. And all the funds, we really do try to line up our deadlines as best as we can. And we know that absolutely can be challenging to see who has a deadline when, what are you eligible for, and will you be able to pull those pieces together? We say it's like a big puzzle. You have to kind of map it out. So again, if you do plan to apply somewhere like Creative BC, or if it's Quebec Core or Ontario Create, CMF, TELUS, just know what their notification date is and know that it has to fall within 60 days of our notification date. And ours is generally 6 to 8 weeks after our deadline. We try to turn around the answers quickly.
You're the fastest.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I hope my boss is listening. Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for being small and nimble. Sometimes you can make those decisions maybe more quickly. Yeah, we do try. Our aim is to provide a great service to everybody, and we try to run programs that are the most useful, and we try to make it, it's tough, it's super tough, but we try to make it as easy as possible. And part of that has been to try and align budget templates, and this audience development plan as well has been aligned with other independent production funds in Canada. So we're trying as much as possible, if you're doing your cost report, that you're going to have the same template. Hopefully you'll hit a couple of funds where we're sharing our templates. We're really trying to do that. with an aim to make it easier for
Maybe
everybody.
that's a good transition into working with partners as well. Like I think some people might find the transition into working with broadcasters a little bit intimidating. And I think from my experience, Belle has done a really great job of being accessible and available to talk through that process. And there seem to have been now a number of channels that you continue to be partnered with through producers. So maybe that's something we could talk about here. How
Um,
to pursue different broadcasters and who's eligible to be a part of the Bell Fund or who you
yeah, for
recognize, I guess.
sure. I mean, in terms of for this program, I mean, this program is meant to, we introduced it at the end of 2017, and it was really meant to reduce those barriers to entry that a lot of people were experiencing really from traditional television, right? How do I get through
Yeah,
the door at a
yeah,
broadcaster? How do I get that meeting? How do I get considered for a broadcast license? You know, that doesn't look like my world. That doesn't look like me or my content or what I'm trying to say. What I'm seeing on the screen isn't. So it was really meant to help both this new, fast evolving digital industry and also the creators to express maybe different content, what might have been considered more niche content back then. That is, I think less niche now in 2021. So all to say, the program is open to really any digital channel on the planet. Does not have to be a Canadian channel. Does not have to have a broadcaster involved. You might have a broadcaster involved, but you don't necessarily. And in fact, a lot of our successful series have launched on YouTube channels, right? So you have the broadcaster digital channels, you have YouTube channels, and you have streamers, all part of the landscape. So in terms of deciding, and we'll talk about the eligibility requirements for the channels because that is really key. What channel is acceptable and what channel might not be acceptable. But in terms of you as a creator deciding, I'd say you have to, um, do your homework to figure out what channel makes sense for your content, right? If you look around, where do you see a channel where you see similar content to yours? So you know that the audience coming there, that's what they're expecting to see. It makes sense for you, right? If it's um, a nonfiction series or a lifestyle series, a documentary, a hard-hitting documentary, or a dramatic series, something on the lighter side, more comedic, like where do you see channels that would make sense for you? And then it's basically a matter of trying to forge a partnership with them, and different streamers have different situations, right? If you go the traditional kind of broadcaster route, say with a CBC Gem or an APT Lumi or an Out TV Go, you're going to get a broadcast license agreement. And depending on the broadcaster, some might be more robust license agreements and some might be more modest. And that's sort of a more traditional TV broadcast license for their digital channel. If you're going with a YouTube channel, again, it just depends because there are so many different, very established YouTube channels. Like Shaftesbury has, 3. They have Kind of TV, Shaftesbury Plus, Shaftesbury Kids, and Blue Ant has like Animal Logic YouTube channel. So there's a variety of YouTube channels that are very established. Some might be associated with a strong production company like a Shaftesbury or with a broadcaster like a Blue Ant. And then there are streamers like Highball out there as well. So, and each one might have some might have a revenue share scheme. Some might kind of again, have a more modest license than others. So there's a wide variety. So it's really up to you to do your homework and see where you think you best fit and have a conversation with them about, I think approach it as you would a broadcaster. I mean, pitching your show to be on their channel. Ideally, you don't want the ones that are just kind of allowing you to stream on their channel,
Right.
allowing you, and they'll take it for free, and maybe you'll see it as some good publicity or a chance to get your show out there. We really want you as much as possible to land in a place where you have a chance to be successful, to be seen by an audience. And if there's revenue involved, then that's amazing. We want you to be able to make a living and to contribute to a strong Canadian industry, right? So
Even
even
having
better.
the stipulation of the 10% third party creates that sort of certainly, like for emerging producers, it creates a situation where there's a necessity to request some kind of financial contribution with the licensing agreement. I think knowing my experience of coming from like a lack of knowledge into much more experience having gone through the process,
Right.
it's an important part of your requirement that helps protect the producer to make sure that you are having those conversations and making sure that there's a real partnership, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Partnership is a great word. And again, it's not a requirement that there be a cash license agreement with your channel because they all have different models. But yeah, it's great if you land somewhere where they're willing to do that and you can get that 10% from that source. I think it helps strengthen your application just because, again, it is so competitive. So we're probably going to end up somewhere in the between 32 and 41%, depending on the round, that will have a recommended application. So there's going to be, 60, 65% maybe who will get the notification that they're not successful this round, unfortunately. And so the more you can do to show a strong, partnership with a channel or some financial contribution, it's not required, but it can certainly help. And in terms of the channel itself, so you have to get a pre-approval from the Bell Fund for your digital channel. You can't just apply, and you wouldn't want to. I mean, again, the application is a lot of work, and you don't want to do all of that work over 3 months and then apply and then just be told within an hour, sorry, you're ineligible. This platform is ineligible. So we do have a pre-approval of platform form for all, we say, non-Canadian broadcaster digital channels. So again, if you're going for that YouTube channel, for example, or a streamer, we want you to, you must have your channel fill in the form, and then you'll submit it to us in advance, and we'll let you know if we approve the channel for your application. And there are a variety of things we're going to look at, and when you look at the form, you'll get a better sense of what we're going for. Again, what it all comes down to really is when you land on that channel and your show streams, we want you to have the best shot possible to find your audience, right, and have success. So that's what we're doing when we're looking at the channels. If you plan to, launch, I don't know, a dramatic series on something that's really a channel that's current affairs focused or something like that, where we think, oh, yeah, I mean, technically, yes, it's a digital channel, but really this is not the best place for your show. So in terms of the channel itself, we do say it has to be available to Canadians, but also we want to see that it markets to Canadian audiences, because sometimes, there are strong international channels, and they might have strong followings in other countries, but they're not necessarily speaking to Canadians. So we do want your channel to be a channel that knows about Canada and is marketing to the Canadian audience, that they have some Canadian viewership. And we want to know that they feature premium quality entertainment content. Again, we are an entertainment fund, so we want to see as strong a quality of content on that service as possible. And again, just that the channel does feature short form digital series content, right? Comparable to the kind of series that Belfund is supporting, and that makes sense again for your content. And we want to see that the channel also features original content. They're not just acquiring content. That they have been involved with the content itself. So
can we
yeah,
talk
that's
a little bit about sort of that deeper in terms of discoverability and how you then look at the marketing plan, but in sort of when you're making those decisions about the strategy and how you're relating to that audience, what are you hoping that the content achieves, I guess, when you're looking at it post it's been broadcast, it's out in the world, how is it achieving a relationship with an audience? How are you analyzing that, I guess?
In terms of, I have to think about that for a moment. Just because I don't really analyze it. I guess what I would say is a couple of things. First of all, there is a pilot project that a few of the independent Canadian production funds are working on with Magnify Digital out of Vancouver, called Viewer Centric. So that pilot project is it's like the new numerous, like the overnights, the Nielsen ratings we used to say for TV, right? It's trying to I guess create a level playing field across all these different social media platforms and digital channels, so that if you're a digital series and you have your data in this service, everybody is collecting the same data across all of these series, and producers can look at it and learn. Funders can look at it to see who is performing well. And that is part of the issue. I mean, we've been supporting what we used to call discoverability, and that we're now calling audience development. Everybody has a different, there's some similarities, but everybody has a different set of goals, I would say, right, heading into their project. Some might be quite modest and some quite lofty. You might want to really grow a brand, grow your social media channels and use them. And ultimately, I think everybody wants views. Everybody wants to see audience analytics where they're showing, a lot of views or watch time. So I'm not an expert in what exactly would be considered, strong, because each situation is so different.
Unique, for sure.
Yeah, because you might, win a very strong and license agreement with a broadcaster, and your content might be a little more niche. It might be really suited to a certain audience, and the broadcaster might be really happy about that. You might get a great license agreement, and that might be really good for you and your content and your business. Or somebody else might go out on a YouTube channel and just have, millions of views, and that's what they really wanted to achieve, and that's what they're going for. So I think it really depends on what your goals are from the beginning. And again, that's something you're going to work on. If you're recommended, then you have that time to work on a comprehensive audience development plan. And that's where you'll really, set your goals, as we say, the KPIs, your key performance indicators for your project. And that's been part of the challenge, right? Is because everybody has different goals. So when everybody's reporting on their shows, because we ask everybody to check in like at an interim stage, and then 30 days after they launch, and then again a couple months after they launch, and tell us, how they did, and if they achieved their goals and what their learnings were. And they're all very different, right? So it's hard to assess them because every plan is different. So all the reports are different. So that's why something like the viewer-centric program will hopefully help to see across, across a level playing field how everybody's performing.
But also
And
for you, it's clarity. It's really it's
yeah,
for the team to have a sense of what those goals are, and knowing going
mhm.
forward why they're making what they're making and what they're hoping to achieve through that channel, and what they're, so that they're guiding the strategy in a particular direction.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we've all seen, things like, 5 million impressions.
Yeah.
That's great. It's like, oh, that sounds great. I don't know what it means. It sounds really good
Yes.
though. So, yeah, so those sorts of things, I think, especially as we're all growing and learning as an industry, sometimes those sorts of things, I certainly don't find them helpful because, I don't know what that means. So just to be really clear what your goal is and to be realistic,
Mm-hmm.
and really knowing your audience, right? That's so important. Who are they? What are they watching? What similar shows are out there? Why is your show maybe different? Why are they going to want to watch your show? Um, where are they going to consume their content? So is that going to be, you're going to be there, ready for them? Um, so just, I think knowing your audience is really important. And again, having that digital platform or channel that makes sense for your show and your audience. So if you can at least figure those things out, you've got a fighting chance, right? Of
Well,
finding
and
them.
yeah, I want to get you to elaborate on that a little bit more too, because I think that as a producer and content creator, you hope that you've identified that accurately and you create a strategy in that particular direction. And I think it's important to know that Bell is hoping that you've achieved that. But if you recognize that you were wrong, or you discover that there's this whole other audience that you didn't know, and so partway through you shifted your strategy and you pursued those people, that's okay as well. And that what is most important is tracking that and following that and gleaning information and then changing your
Mm.
strategy as the information comes, as opposed to just feeling like we thought it was this, we were wrong, and then we're afraid that we've done the wrong thing, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, we're here to support the Canadian independent creators, to do the best they can with creating great content and contributing to that strong industry. So, media is super, it's super complicated. It requires a lot of people
Yeah.
constantly, I think, being nimble we're a small organization, so we can't accommodate a whole lot of change. But absolutely, things change all the time, and we have a conversation that seems reasonable. Then we say, yeah, go for it. Something shifted, or key members of the team
Mm-hmm.
have shifted. Maybe even a platform, unfortunately, might shift. Um, all we can do is have that conversation and work it through together. It is important to talk to your funder and just keep
Yes.
them in the loop. We just don't want to be surprised by it, but absolutely, things change, and you don't know. I mean, nobody knows all the answers, right? That's part of
Right.
the. Again, I used to direct the broadcast schedule at TVO, and you set a schedule, you set content that you hope is going to get an audience, or if you have another goal, it might not be an audience, it might be more of a qualitative goal, and you hope for the best, and sometimes you win and sometimes you don't, and nobody on the planet has all the answers, right?
Right.
But you put the best, you do your research, you talk to your experts, and you work with strong teams to at least make informed choices, so you can try your best to really identify that audience and then put yourself in a position where you can connect with them. I think is all you can really do.
Right.
After that, it's up to the
It's with the
fates.
gods. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
before we run out of time, I want
Oh
to make
gosh,
sure
I've
that we
talked a
talk.
long time, but you also want to talk
No,
about the
that's okay.
trailer too, right?
Oh, the trailer. And then I was going to say we want to dedicate some time to the Slate development and what's different about the Slate versus the production applications.
Yeah, yeah,
But
for sure.
definitely I mean, I guess they're tied in because the Slate is an opportunity to create your trailer and prepare your
Yeah, it's true.
application ahead of time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So with your short form digital series application, you will submit a trailer, a teaser or trailer up to 2 minutes duration, right? So it's going to reflect the look and feel of your proposed series. And we do want it to be comprised of original footage that that you have created. We don't want it to be full of stock footage, because we want to have a sense of that you know your craft and that you can produce the content. So yeah, your trailer is really important, and as I mentioned, there's a lot of money, you know, on the table. 150,000 for your series, and potentially 50,000 more um, for your audience development plan. So up to $200,000 is on the table. So we do expect that your trailer is going to look great, that it's going to be professional. You will put some money into it. That's just part of the deal of the business, and it's important. You know, as we all know, trailers are super important because you know you
It's
tell
a
the story.
visual medium. How can you know without seeing?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And you know, it just, you know, and what I always think of in a trailer is, well, one, you just want it, you want to get across that you're a professional, right? Your lighting, your audio, your edits, your colors, you know, it looks great, you know, your craft. But also, hopefully, you're compelling somebody to really want to watch your show, you know, right? If they get excited and they're like, wow, love it, we'd love to see that. Um, you know, or it just looks great, or you know, your your talent, your concept, everything is really strong. So
It's
um
a useful tool too, even beyond the application process. Like
true. Yeah.
it's something you can show to whites, it's something you can show to all your post houses. You can negotiate and influence pricing based on how committed people might be if they're excited and enthusiastic about the content.
Yeah, that's a good point. And often, you know, as I say, it is a lot of work to do your application, but it is kind of a forced, you know, study, right? You have to do your budget, and you have to pull a team together, and you have to come up with your finance plan, and you have to, you know, create this trailer, and then you have all those pieces, right? So even
Yeah.
if you are not successful with your first application to Bell Fund, you have those pieces which can be used. You know, you could apply a second time with the same project to Bell Fund. We have two deadlines per year, or you can use those components, as you say, to pitch other opportunities. And having a great trailer is super easy and a great way to do that. You know, just send it
Mm-hmm.
off on your phone and say, check it out. You know,
Yeah.
would love you to be part of this. So yeah, it's a lot of work, but at the end of the day, I think these are all things you're going to need as a professional creator, and so it's good to, you know, go through the process regardless. And I
Well,
can
yeah.
mention
And
that.
so,
Sorry,
oh,
sorry.
sorry. No, I was just going to lead us into the Slate, but you continue.
Okay, I was just going to say just a couple of other requirements. If you are applying, your principal photography may not start until after the deadline. So for short form, that would be you can't start shooting your main content until after September 27. And you have to own the copyright, of course. So we say it has to be owned, optioned, or controlled by the applicant. And one other final note, especially for emerging creators and producers, we do recommend that you have someone who's experienced help you with your application process. Um, they don't have to be committed to the production itself, but if you've never done this before, it's great to have somebody on board. And again, give them time Don't ask them the day of the deadline to look things over. But again, I just can't stress enough. It's super hard to do an application. So if you're doing it for the first time, if you have a mentor, somebody who's willing to look it over for you and help you out, then that's great. And even better, have them write a brief letter of support, just saying that they believe in you as a creator in the project. And yeah, don't take up tons of their time if you're not paying them, but but people are really helpful out there, and you might find somebody. I know Kate's busy, but anybody else? No, just kidding.
Well, no, but I don't mind. I get phone calls all the time. And I'm not always successful with my applications either, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
so you put them through. I think it's always worth doing it because every single time there's new information and learning that comes from it. And I really do feel that making the trailers is a useful process because there's so many ways in which, even if you are successful getting the funding, it continues to be a resource when you're having to negotiate costs for all kinds of things. Like, we certainly felt that way with Band Ladies, that we could get more because people were excited to watch the trailer and then support the project.
Yeah, for sure.
But rejection is also very much a part of the process.
Yeah, somebody was saying that, and I was talking at the Gimli Film Festival yesterday in Manitoba, and someone was saying, yeah, just yeah, you just keep getting those no's,
Yes.
no, and it just
Collect
like,
the no's. Yeah.
you know what, you just have to keep on. And that's the other thing too, is everybody gets no's. Experienced veterans, you don't always get it, but we need to keep, working with each other and trying, right? Everybody's really, their heart's in the right place. So just, do your best, I would say, to be resilient and to be gracious, and to, to get some feedback and to learn from it and to try and to listen, because, we are really here to help and to, and we want you to be successful. That is our goal. So if there are notes, they're with the best intention. And so try to listen. It's hard in the moment. I know once you get crushed if something doesn't work out, but it's a
there's
tough
always a
business.
reason, there's something else to do. Well, and so with the Slate development, because I think development funding is almost even more challenging to secure. But in terms of my understanding of it, you can have up to 3 projects. You have to have a minimum of 2, but each of those projects is at some stage where it's not ready for production, but you're trying to get some funding to support all the things that you're describing, making a trailer or writing the pilot or finishing scripts. So can we talk a little bit about what the expectations are and how that fund is functioning?
Yeah, for sure. And so for the Slate development program, so yeah, that is meant to help Canadian independent production companies build, diversify their slates. So and again, we want to. It's meant to help you develop original IP, that's intellectual property. Um, so you have ownership over something, and can take that forward as an owner, as opposed to doing the service work. This is meant to support intellectual property development, and again, that's all to help build a strong independent production sector, right? In Canada, if our producers have some money to spend some time to make strong deliverables for development, and therefore strong, applications for production, then we think that that's really, really helpful. You don't have to just jump right into production, having done everything yourself. And I do want to mention that in 2021, especially, we have quite a few changes to our Slate development program. So if anybody is familiar with Slate development, definitely read the summary of changes document on our website at bellfund.ca, just because that will give you the highlights of what we've changed. And I'll mention a couple of them now. because the first one is, if you did receive Slate Development financing in our last round, which would have been, the deadline would have been November 2020, and you would have been notified in early 2021, you are not eligible to apply for this round. You have to sit out this round and come back next year in 2022. So that is basically our new rule. And again, that is because, like all of our programs, it's so oversubscribed. I think it was 32% of our applicants last year received financing. So to give, that almost 70% of folks out there a chance for the successful ones from last year to sit out and to come forward and maybe have less competition. Also development, I mean, if you're being supported to develop up to 3 original new concepts, I think 24 months is not an unreasonable time to wait to come back with another 3. It's a pretty big slate. So I think if you are successful and you have development financing, holding off one round isn't too bad a fate. So that is a new rule, though, and the other thing is, this is a really big new rule. We used to say that you had to have, I think it was also 75% of your development financing that we support. Now it's 100%. So you don't actually need to come with additional financing in your finance plan for development. You may ask for 100% of your development cost. And, if you have additional financing from another source, then that's great. You just have to make sure it's specifically for this project and this phase of development, and you can bring that together with your application. Again, it might, demonstrate a strong application if you have more financing, but it isn't required. You may ask for 100% now. And so that's a huge change for us. And really a big part of that was just that development can be super tricky, because development is comprised of a lot of different phases. You could be a development for years and years and years, and really early development where you're just at concept stage, to writing script, draft scripts, to polishing scripts and making trailers and attaching cast and key personnel for your project. So development goes through so many phases. So with this program, it's really important to, you have to know what phase you're applying for and what you're hoping to achieve. And you only come forward with other financing if it's specifically for that phase. But
Is
yeah,
it still mandatory to have a broadcaster or platform commitment, even if
you
there's no
do.
financial contribution?
Yeah, exactly. And so what we do is we ask for market interest
Okay.
or a market partner, and refer to the guidelines. But it's basically, it could be a broadcaster, their linear or their digital channel that is interested. It could be a distributor. And I'm trying to think. Digital platform, a broadcaster, a distributor. That's
All
basically.
Canadian though, not international.
No, it could be
Oh, can
international.
be international.
Yeah, absolutely, it can be international. And we have both. We have a form that we ask them to fill in, really just to make sure it's easy for them to express what we need them to express in a letter. Or they could do a letter. I think we still have a template on our site to give a sense of what, or actually I don't think we have a template, but we just say, it should contain the things that are contained in the form. It's super tricky. I mean, we need something, we want to see that you've approached somebody out there in the industry, and they're able to say, you know what, I love this team, I love this company, this is a great concept, I think this really should be developed further. We hope that they truly are interested in looking at the deliverables, and that maybe they'll move ahead to another phase of development, or even into production with your show. Having said that, we also acknowledge that it's not always the case that they're going to be, green lighting your show. But at least they're showing an industry support for you and your content,
Right.
and they're going to demonstrate that in writing. And that's what we're going to use as part of your application, but that is a requirement. So again, you do need to get out there and knock on some doors and get somebody to support you. Again, they don't need to put cash into it.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly, I think different broadcasters, different platforms, some might do that. Some simply won't do that as kind of a matter of policy. They won't put development dollars into something. So it isn't a requirement, but again, it's always, if somebody can contribute financially, it's never a bad thing, really, for an application. And those personal letters as well, they can go a long way as well for your application.
Yeah.
And that is another note, for folks, is if they, if you have committed key creatives, and in production, you absolutely would need to have your committed key creatives, like a director, a showrunner, another producer, a key talent. Make sure that you, in addition to, sharing their CV with us, have something in writing from them showing that they are committed to the project. And of course, their commitment can be, love the project, I'm committed to going forward should you get financing. I mean, they're not going to be committed if you don't get the financing, but it's just, again, helpful for the jury to see that they're actually aware of your project.
Right.
For starters.
They've had a conversation with you. They're
Yeah,
involved.
they're aware of it. You're not just, throwing the name out there, and they support it. And letters like that are really important, I think, for applications. And so, yeah, so in terms of Slate, to be eligible, you have to be a Canadian independent production company. And we do say now that you don't need to be incorporated at the time of application. But should you be recommended and approved, then of course you would need to be prepared to be incorporated. And as you mentioned, Kate, you're going to bring 2 or 3 projects in development, and you're going to, own the rights or have control over the rights to those projects at the time of application. And check out the guidelines to see what content is eligible and what content is not eligible. There's a bit of a list in there, so you can refer to it. Often what we see are television series or digital series, probably the most. That's what we're seeing with development. For example,
factual or scripted?
Yeah, absolutely. It can be any genre for development. Not any genre. You'll see there's things like, of course, news, current affairs, sports.
Right.
Some of the content that is not supported. As well, feature films and short films are not eligible. So just keep that in mind. A documentary could be eligible if it is, if the intent is that it is part of the broadcast system.
Right.
It's not purely theatrical. So
I want to thank you, because I know you have a hard
Oh my gosh, it's 1 o'clock already.
We've chatted for so long. So
I talk a lot. So sorry.
It's so
But check out the amount
wonderful.
as well. It's $25,000 per show in your slate to a max of 75 for 3 projects.
Yeah.
And so check that out in the guidelines, because I forgot to mention that. And it is a repayable advance if you go into production. Otherwise, you don't have to pay it back.
But ideally, your intent is to go into production.
Yeah, hopefully, we wish that for you. But, at least you have the chance to develop, and that's a great experience.
Well, thank you so much for being so informative. This was so great, and it's always a pleasure to have an opportunity to talk with you.
It's a pleasure to be here, and yeah, I talk a lot, so hopefully people were able to take that in.
You talk a lot of good information, so
Yeah.
it's valuable for
Thanks,
everybody
Rodney.
here. Especially the whole development fun part. I think people were very surprised and very pleasantly surprised to hear that,
Yes.
because it can take their careers a lot further.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
absolutely.
thank you.
And again, I just want to reiterate, if they are interested, check out the guidelines and do set up a one-on-one by emailing info@belfund.ca. Once you're ready, really look at the guidelines, have your questions ready, because you don't want to waste your time with us, right? If you're given, say, 15 minutes, you want to get to your questions and know what you want to talk about. Yeah, we'll talk with you.